So funny story, this manga was actually recommended to me by my best friend in the whole world, and I wanted to do it as a live stream read through at least the first 8 chapters, the Turbo Granny arc, but after reading chapter 1, or even just like clicking through like the first one, I immediately decided that, no, cannot do that, because Yukinobo Tatsu was a little bit out of his mind with the fan service, and given what I do professionally, that was just not gonna work. That said, I still read the first arc, and there was a lot that I really enjoyed about it, so I'm here to talk about it and give my discussion on the Turbo Granny arc of DanDaDan. So let's get into it. So what is DanDaDan? I gotta be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure yet. Like, in other shonen like Naruto and One Piece, the goal of the story is pretty obviously stated. Naruto wants to be Hokage, Luffy wants to be Pirate King. Okuran, or I guess Ken Takamura... Ken Takakura? Oh my god, why was that so hard for me to say? His goal seems to be a very simple goal of like wanting to not feel like an outcast in society. And Momo Ice, which is how I think you say the last name of that character, her goal seems to be to find her own Ken Takakura, who is not just Okurun, the other protagonist of this story, but also like a very famous actor in Japan, I guess, that she has a crush on. So her goal seems to be related to that. Okurun's goal seems to be related to fitting in. And that seems to be all we really know about the goals of this world. We do know a little bit about them as characters, though, and that is that Momo is from a psychic family. Her grandmother is a medium. She believes very strongly in spirits, but she does not believe in aliens. Meanwhile, Okurun believes spirits are all made up, but aliens are factual, and the two of them get into kind of a spat during a time at school, which leads them to going and investigating each other's realities. And unfortunately, they both find out that they're right, where Okurun finds the spirit of Turbo Granny, and Momo finds a group of problematic aliens. That's how we're gonna phrase it, so YouTube doesn't give me a copyright flag or a violation of terms of service. Yeah. So Okurun gets possessed by Turbo Granny, and eventually Momo escapes the aliens, and the two conjoin to realize that with Okurun cursed, they have to fix that, and that becomes kind of the main purpose of this introductory arc. I'm not actually sure how much aliens are going to do with the rest of the series moving forward. Hopefully that's touched on, but if it is just about the spirits, then okay, I still think there is a lot of room to work with in this world. And I guess Okurun and Momo are probably the best place to start with this discussion, because they are really fun. Like, in terms of shonen characters, we don't know that much about them yet, but their dynamic is really good. I think they're clearly set up to be like the main romantic relationship between the two, and they have really good chemistry on page. They made me laugh a few times. Their personalities are so different from each other, so they clash really well, but they also mesh together really well. They clash for humor, but they mesh together for like heartwarming moments. I really appreciate that. I really enjoy Momo, actually, because in terms of like well-written shonen female characters, we don't get that many of them. But she seems to be like locked in terms of like when she performs well. She's very smart, she's very calculated, she's very quick to anger and hot-tempered, which is funny, but like she feels complete. Even though her plot is a romance plot where she wants to find her own Ken Takakura, it's played up as more of a gag. It's not her entire character. She has actual depth. Her relationship with her grandmother, her asking for forgiveness from her grandmother for bad-mouthing her, her reflection in terms of like, I wasn't mad that kids were bullying me, I was mad because they were making fun of my grandmother and I didn't know what to say about them. These were actually really wholesome characteristic moments, and I can't wait to get a little bit more depth in Okurun. Him explaining his like desire to have friends, how he was always an outcast, his doubt that Momo actually wants to hang out with him again, even at the end of this arc where Momo helps him and then he's like, okay, goodbye, and Momo has to chase him down to be all like, no, you mean see you later because we're not done being friends after this arc, was actually really well done. As characters, I'm really bought into them, and I want to see where their dynamic goes moving forward and how the mangaka is going to introduce new characters into the plot, or is this going to be a very small cast of characters, which I would also be okay with, because the grandmother, also hilarious. Inappropriate as can be, but kind of funny. I also think that in terms of powers, they're not particularly unique, but they are some of my favorite ways of it being presented. Obviously, like, psychic energy has been a power that has existed in manga and comic books for a very long time, but I'm really interested in the applications of how it's used. I'm going to talk about the artwork a little bit later, but the artwork is stunning. But I remember there's this one scene where, like, Momo astral projects almost like an arm to reach a bus or to reach a train that's flying by, and then she's able to, like, telepathically grab it and almost like zip to it, like almost like a Spider-Man web shot. And I'm really interested in how that's going to be applied. Like, is she going to make, like, astral projections of herself? Could she like advance this to the point of being like almost like a Megazord of her own energy? I don't know, but I'm really interested in that. Ken's power, also seen before. I actually really enjoy how it appears in this manga, though. It's way funnier. So, like, obviously Naruto had a possession issue. Asta has a possession issue. Like, it's not that uncommon to see in shonens for, like, the main character to be possessed by this demon. But I really enjoyed the gag of, like, when he reaches this demon mode, he becomes very self-depreciating, he becomes very depressed, because it's a curse. He wouldn't feel good under it as Turbo Granny. Or maybe it just reveals what he really thinks about himself. I'm not quite sure yet, haven't gotten that deep. But those gags were very funny. He just loses all motivation or all willpower. And how him and Momo have to act as a team, because, like, he is the physically stronger of the two, but he can't control his actions. So Momo has to help keep him in control for him to inflict damage. Meanwhile, she thinks more tactically because she can actually think and is able to, like, break down the yokai that they're fighting, or understand the dynamics of the combat, or what are the conditions that need to be met, and help, like, make that happen. I mean, even the fight with, what's its name? Let me check my notes real quick. The Flatwood monster, where she's the one who realizes, oh, this is a sumo pose, so to beat this thing, we have to get its hands to touch the ground and then operate around that. That was really brilliant. And how at the end, she's the one that places the talisman back on. She lets herself get hit, so they push her back behind the gate. All of that was really, really well done. I'm loving the tactical methods used in the manga, and I'm hoping that stays and it doesn't just become eventually my energy is stronger than your energy, or I hit harder than you, and that's that. I want it to stay at this. It doesn't need to be crazy levels of depth, but I like to see the strategy play out, and I hope that stays. I said it before, I also really love the grandmother character, who I don't know the name of, so I'm gonna go look it up right now. Psycho Ice, I think is how you say it, or Dodoria Santa is her stage name or whatever. I like her as a mentor-based character, mostly because it's unique. You know, I like characters that break the mold, but they don't feel like just inserts there to break the mold. Like, the character has a purpose, and I like her pettiness. That was, like, the thing that, like, popped out to me. Obviously, she's really undergoing a training. She believes very much in her granddaughter. She understands Okarun. She wants to help Okarun get strong enough that he can withstand the curse that's infesting in him, or the curses that maybe he'll interact with in the future. But I like her pettiness at the end of, I forget what chapter was it. Was it chapter 4 or something? Where she's watching the news, and, like, they think they shamed her, or they proved her a fraud because she got all the crystal ball reading information wrong. But then at the end, like, the information's coming out where it's just like, he is 27, he's not 20, he does have a secret family, yada yada yada. And then, like, she's just there and, like, now tell me that your favorite food is curry and not ramen like you said it was. And that is hilarious to me. I love the attitudes that Tatsu gives to all his characters, and how it feels really, they all feel really alive, and I'm loving that so far. She also mentions something about, like, how the power that they have comes from the gods of the districts that they're in or something. And I need to understand more of that, because that's a big lore drop to get with no explanation, and I'm hoping it gets explained in the future, because gods exist in this world, and if so, what does that mean for the story moving forward? Because right now we're dealing with, like, yokai and aliens. And I actually didn't mention this before, but I really love the yokai. I love how all of them have stories that are discovered behind it. I guess we don't know for sure, I'm only one in, but like of the two, there's stories of each of the yokai that we see and the purpose that they served, and it helps lead to their defeat. Like understanding this one fights as a sumo, touch the ground, and then Turbo Granny, right, she needs to race, and so like how to beat her is to win this race, but then also understanding that she was this spirit that would show up to women who died in traumatic ways to help comfort them, added more depth to her character than I thought. Not that I needed it for this arc, but it is something I imagine is going to play out a little bit better in the future and have to deal more with like how they're going to come to their resolutions, because I imagine that not every spirit is bad that they're going to need to fight and defeat. And I'm actually really excited to read Arc 2 because of it. I want to know how much of what I'm thinking is going to happen is actually going to happen, or how much Tatsu is going to like turn the tables on me. And the last thing I want to really touch on is that I would say that this series does a little bit too much humor, for me at least right now. I would say they hit about maybe 75% of the time, and then of the 75% of the time that the jokes hit, there's like 50% of them that are like actually really, really funny. But I think this kind of brings me to one of my second con. The first was the excessive fan service to almost an uncomfortable degree. I mean, I don't think Momo is, you know what, I'm not gonna say it, but you know, sorry, the other one was like, there's a lot of potty humor in this first arc that, I don't know, like, the first time it made me laugh, and then every time it showed up again, I was like, but do I need that? Because is that necessary for the plot? Because I'm not really enjoying it, you know? Like, there are parts that work, like when Okarun is dying, but Okarun is dying, he's so hungry, and they're giving him food, but the grandma's making him so uncomfortable with all of her questions towards him that he doesn't want to eat. And then she calls him, like, she blames it on, like, the food instead of, like, her behavior, calling him Picky McPickerson. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. But, like, there was other parts where it's just, like, the grandma was, like, obsessed with, like, finding out if he still had, you know, if you read it. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. And that just, I did not need that. And on that aspect, this manga did a lot of, like, this emotion juxtaposed with this emotion. And I think the goal of that was to show how jarring it was with Okarun's possession. But sometimes I was just like, what is happening here? And there were two moments that did that for me. One was like the bathroom scene. That was really weird. And the second one was when they're escaping Turbo Granny, and then all of a sudden it's revealed that Turbo Granny could like raise the souls of the spirits in the graveyard. If I read that correctly, I could have misread that. But if I did misread that, I also feel like that is, you know, not entirely my fault. But sometimes I just felt that things would just pop up, and then we get the explanation later, and then the explanation left me with more questions, if that makes sense. So maybe the complexity of the lore was like too much, too fast. But I really don't want to keep nitpicking the story, because outside of like a few narrative clarity issues that I had and a few potty humor jokes that I really didn't love, the first arc, this Turbo Granny arc, was really, really enjoyable. I am probably gonna read the second arc today. I got a Shonen Jump manga the online subscription, just so I could blitz it. So hopefully I'll have arc 2 ready to talk about a little bit later. But I really enjoyed this manga. I think it's very refreshing. I think it's a really good twist on shonen. Momo right now is like already rising to be one of my favorite shonen protagonists. I just really can't express to you how much I love the fact that, like, while relationships are important to this female character, which is not uncommon for shonen, that it's played off as a gag a lot of the times, and how she very much is this like this heart of gold character beneath this like layer of just, I don't care, I'm gonna be like a hard I'm gonna be a B word on public, but then I actually really do care about people all the time. And I always love those types of characters. I love like that scene where she comes in, she sees people picking on Okarun, and she sits right in front of Okarun to protect him from getting stuff thrown at him. She's great. Okarun as like a very like outsider feeling character trying to embrace these genuine friendship that Momo is offering him and not really understanding it but wanting more, and that ending where the two meet at school and she's just like, what are you hiding over there for? Come on, let's go. That's awesome. And so while I gotta be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure where this story is going to go, I will say, just based off arc 1, that the dynamics introduced with the characters, the lore of the series, the power sets of the series, and of course, the humor, the comedy, the relationships of the series make me excited to read arc 2. And so I guess, Jay, you were right. I do enjoy this series. But I really want to know 2 questions. 1, does the amount of fan service go down? I understand that it's a manga. I understand that it will always have some. But does it ever get less uncomfortable is 1. And then the second thing is, does the plot stay more defined? Or does the plot become more defined? Or is this always going to be just a character-driven story? If you could let me know those stuff in the comment section below, that would be a great help. But would also be a great help is if you could like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Like, comment on the video, and subscribe to this channel because it really helps the channel grow, and I would love to build this community up as I keep going. We hit 1,000 subs. I'm still hoping to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. But with all that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, hey there guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed my manga content and you want to see more, why don't you check out my review for Volume 3 of Blue Exorcist on screen now. And if you're just interested in hearing my thoughts on more fantasy in general, why don't you check out my latest video essay on Tress of the Emerald Sea. But whatever it is you choose to do next, I hope you have a great rest of your day.